Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, October 13th, 2025. I've got 6:02, so we will go ahead and call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order. We will get started first with items from the Senior Director of Administrative Services. Good evening, Director.
Good evening, everyone. It's my honor to be here today to present our Gahanna Strategic Plan and Economic Development Plan to everyone here today. First, I just want to do some introductions. With us today, we have Bailey and Sarah from Planning Next. They were our consultants who has been with us on this plan. And on this side, we have John Heilman and Ethan Barnhart. They were two active members of our steering committee, and they'll be participating in this evening's presentation. At the end of today, we will be recommending that Council passes a resolution to adopt Gahanna Strategic Plan and Economic Development Strategy. This initiative reflects a comprehensive and inclusive planning process designed to guide the city's future growth, development, and priorities. Before we get started, I just wanted to send a couple thank yous. First and foremost to Mayor Jadwin for asking me to lead this initiative, to the council members for participating throughout the planning process. At the back of the room is Kelsey Bartholomew, Management Analyst 2 in DAS, and Rachel Zarek, Economic Development Administrator. They were on the project team with me. They helped keep me organized. They helped keep the steering committee organized. They were vital to the success of this project, so if we could give them a round of applause. I'd also like to thank the city directors and city staff who were engaged and participated in the process throughout, and to the many community members and members of the business community that assisted throughout this engagement process. So for the agenda for this evening, the folks in front of you will go over the process. We are asking for a public hearing on the 20th and then for a council vote on the 3rd. We'll then cover the steering committee and their role in this process, the public engagement, and then the plan overview. I did email you a link to the plan on Saturday morning as well. So after adoption of that plan in its final format, we will get those professionally printed because as you may have seen it is a very large document. I would ask that questions be held to the end, and then I'll return to the microphone to answer any questions that you might have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Planning Next.
Miranda. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. We're just going to do a little bit of review here, and then we'll get right into our presentation on the plan overview. So this is a slide we've had in this deck before. As we've presented, just a reminder for folks about what a strategic plan is. It's really a long-term framework that outlines a roadmap for the future. It oftentimes does involve collaboration, beyond the city. And it's really a guide for the city decision makers. And this one specifically was really based on input from the community. We really put a lot of intentionality and effort in making sure that everyone in Gahanna knew it was an opportunity to get involved and have their voice heard. Our scope or our charge at the beginning of this process was really kind of three components. So we did some preparation to get ready for a robust process. We had 3 rounds of engagement, and then we went into plan development. And I think it's best illustrated on this process timeline, where you can see our 3 rounds of community engagement there at the bottom, but how they, with those arrows, kind of informing the plan development as we went along. So each round of engagement was iterative. Each round that we went out to seek community input, we would hear from folks, and then we would test what we heard in the next round. And that was really important for developing a plan that was really from the community. And you'll see when we get to the plan framework and the plan itself, the recommendations of how that kind of all comes together, then for the plan itself and adoption and implementation. So I'm going to hand it over now to Ethan and John as 2 of our steering committee members who are going to talk a little bit more in detail about the steering committee and their role.
All right. Good evening, members of council. It's a pleasure to be before you today to kind of talk a little bit about the roles and responsibility of the steering committee. Like I said, my name's Ethan Barnhart, and I've been a member of the Gahanna Steering Committee over the past year, and it's been a real honor to be able to help be a part of this process. So really, our main goal was really just to be the champions of this process and to make sure that we were using our personal networks to get people engaged and really excited about participating in our Gahanna. Additionally, we work to be the faces out at all the public engagement events as well, making sure that people showed up, making sure that we were able to help facilitate different community conversations, and really just encourage people to share their input into the plan, because we really wanted to make sure that all of Gahanna was really representative and people were making sure that their input was heard. Additionally, steering committee members, we wanted to get the word out. So this really included a lot of things like dropping off pamphlets and flyers at different public locations throughout the city, sharing opportunities on social media to be able to make sure people heard about them and how to be engaged, and sending out emails, text messages, phone calls, whatever it took to be able to just really get the word out to people and to get them engaged in this process. And then really an important part of what we did also, and one of the reasons that the steering committee existed, was to make sure that it was really going to be a representative of what the community is, and make sure that we were tapping into underrepresented areas of the community, just to make sure that the feedback was going to be grounded and really representative of who we are.
The involvement that we had, I'm John Howman, been a resident, sorry, thank you. John Howman, I've been a resident of Gahanna for over 42 years now. Recently retired and thought the steering committee would be a good opportunity for me to get involved more in the local community. The involvement that we had to do involved many meetings. Before we engaged the community, we met with next planning in order to figure out exactly how we were going to do, what we were going to be responsible to do, and to actually start that process of going through it. Once that was done, then we engaged with our networks. That included friends, neighbors, church groups, many other people that we had connected with. I personally had previously worked at Casto, so I connected with the property manager up at Vista Apartments and the property manager for the shopping centers that Casto owns within the city to send out emails to the tenants of those facilities and ask them to participate in this process. So there was much time committed outside. We held meetings, small roundtables, which we'll get into a little bit more later, with small groups, and then evolved it into the larger processes that we went through.
So we do have a few photos of just us as steering committee members being able to kind of learn what to do. This was a great shot from one of our early meetings where we learned how we were going to be able to conduct and facilitate conversations at the table talks. So those were our small groups that we invited people to come and just kind of have discussions about, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see, and what you envision Gahanna looking like in the future. And while I have a microphone, I just want to say Planning Next, they did an amazing job preparing us for that. And honestly, throughout this entire process, they were really great to be able to work with. So thank you so much for that. So also had a few more photos of just different steering committee events that we had, being able to just kind of get prepped and ready to be out into the community.
And even after we had engaged the community, we actually had a steering committee meeting where we met with the directors of the various city offices and went through kind of the first draft of the plan in order to get comments before it even went to the community the next time.
All right. So as they said, the steering committee is instrumental in this process, and we work across the country, and I can tell you the steering committee, the folks that commit to their community, it really makes the process so much more robust and really representative of the community. So They did a great job, all of them. So a little bit about just a reminder, for our engagement process, we did 3 rounds throughout the about year-long process. We ended up with 86 table talks. That was that first round, meeting in a box kind of style out in community. We had 6 in-person events. We had some pop-ups where we engaged high school students. We had a presence at the YMCA, the Senior Center, other community events. We had business focus group meetings as part of the economic development strategy, and we had 3 online surveys that coincided with each of the 3 rounds. We also did staff engagement, so we met with the department directors. We had some surveys early on, and then the joint meeting that they mentioned where we brought the steering committee and the department directors together to kind of look through the initial first pass at recommendations. We had engagement with council. We've been here presenting to you all. We also had some one-on-one interviews at the beginning of the process and at the end of the process to receive kind of comments and feedback. And we also made sure the boards and commissions were involved and engaged as well, and knew there was opportunities to get involved. I'm going to pass it back over to, I feel like we're passing the thing, but I'm going to pass it back over because these folks, Ethan and John, have a few more stories about how they were out in community and some of the things that they did in a little bit more detail.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have some photos of just some of the different activities that we had, some of the table talks. I recognize one in the bottom left corner because that was one of the table talks that I held, and just a fun little anecdote about that. It was all parents of Goddard preschool kids. One of the networks that I tapped into was my daughter's daycare. Just as a parent myself, I know how hard it is to make sure that young parents are getting engaged in these types of processes. So it was really important to me to be able to make sure to reach out to, fellow toddler parents and give them an opportunity to talk about their community and what they wanted it to look like. And I think that's just one example of how we were just tapping into different parts of the community to be able to make sure that we were having all voices be heard.
And while my table talks associated with Stone Ridge Plaza and Vista Apartments didn't go as well as I had hoped, on more than one occasion at the second and third rounds of engagements, when somebody was at the meeting, they saw my name and they says, "Oh, I got an email from you." I'm like, "Where do you live?" or "Where do you work?" And it was like, "Oh, I'm at this store," or I live in Vista Plaza Apartments. And they recognized my name because of the emails, even though they never showed up at the table talks. They were still getting engaged in the events.
And then also, we had, additional events. I don't see a picture here, but I did want to share just the story about the Taco Tuesday from the Vision Festival. It was a cold, dreary, wet night, and when I was going into it, I'm like, nobody's going to show up to this thing. It's just like, because the weather was just so bad. But, honestly, due to the city's, great advertisement, making sure to get the word out, there was really strong turnout for that event. And it was just so cool to be able to see, other members of the community coming out and being able to share their thoughts, eat a delicious taco, and also there were kids that were playing out on, inflatables in the rain. And it was just, that was a fantastic event. So that was just honestly one of my highlights of the entire engagement process, getting to be a part of that. And yeah, like I said, I don't think that would have been possible without just the amazing work that city staff did on being able to get the word out. I think that was an effort, every step of the way that really helped out. And then also having a staff presence, I just also want to just give a special shout out to Rachel and Kelsey back there, because none of this would have been possible without a lot of their hands-on work, start to finish.
They really kept us on task.
Yeah, couldn't have done it without them.
They really did. They kept pushing. And if you didn't do it, you felt guilty.
Yep.
So you did it. All seriousness.
So, and then also we had our final round of engagement with the sweet treat, and that was just another one. It's just like the turnout in the community, being able to see people coming and sharing their thoughts and their voices and reflecting on the plan, and just really showing why they think that Gahanna is such a special community.
And I think particularly the sweet treats may have had over 200 responses, I'm guessing it was considerably more because a lot of people came through that particular event as families. And they were filling out the card, one card, for husband, wife, maybe teenage kids with them. So very likely the numbers are underestimated.
Yeah, and I mean, even at some of these events, like at the Sweet Treat and the taco, parents were coming with their kids, and even kids were getting involved in like sharing their input on different things. Sometimes you kind of had to like talk to them and explain it in terms that, they could understand, but they were actually really excited to also share their thoughts on what they wanted to see in Gahanna, which, I don't know, that's just cool,
And I know that at the Touch and Truck, nobody, I don't think, filled out a survey at the Touch and Truck because they all had little kids with them. But we made sure that they were aware that there was the online survey and that survey was going to close on the following day, just to make sure. So I'm no doubt that we got a lot of responses later from that event.
So as my colleagues have kind of illustrated for you all, we had a very robust engagement process throughout this planning process. And Sarah and I have really enjoyed hearing from the residents. We think that it's very promising that you all have a group of very involved residents. We heard some great ideas, which I loved, including the ideas from the little kids. Those are always fun. So overall, we had more than 1,800 participants and more than 9,000 pieces of input. And I like to share that we do read all of that input. We take it all back to our office and put it into Excel spreadsheets so that we can analyze it. So if anyone thinks, oh, they're just not going to read this, I probably read it multiple times. And then we also ask our participants to kind of tell us where they're from in the community and a little bit about themselves. So we know from those surveys that we heard from community members from all demographics and all areas of the city, which we are also happy to hear. We have talked a little bit about the outreach that the city did, and I really want to highlight that outreach because that is integral to kind of getting the word out and putting this process in front of everyone in the community. We like to say that we try to make this a choice so people know about it, and then they have the choice to participate or not. So to start that process off, we, at the beginning of the planning process, created ourgahanna.com. I hope that you all had a chance to visit that website. But that website was home to any updates about the process, information about all of our engagement process, and it was home to all of the surveys that we had for all 3 rounds of engagement. And people could also sign up for an email list to kind of get updates about the project through the process. We also created project business cards, and we ordered 10,000 of those. So those could be passed out at community events. We gave some to each of the steering committee members so that they could get the word out and pass those out throughout the process. So I'm going to start here. All of the following numbers are things specifically that the city did. So, city email blasts and social media posts do not take into account individual emails and social media posts that members of the steering committee and other members of the community may have done. But this is really robust and shows that the city was very invested in this process. So overall, there were more than 29 city email blasts to email subscribers, newsletter subscribers, and others, and there were more than 77 social media posts. And I did note that some of those social media posts were shared multiple times, so that's exciting to see too. Postcards were developed and sent to all residences for each round of engagement, so a personal invitation to participate. And there was promotion at both businesses and on the community gateway signs. I know that Rachel did some personal outreach to businesses by dropping off flyers and posters for some of the rounds. There were also engagement tables and QR code boards at partner locations like YMCA, the library, Creekside, and Hunter's Ridge Pool. So those QR boards drove people to the online survey. Gahanna.gov events calendar and news flashes featured all of the engagement events. We were featured in Uniquely Gahanna and the Explore Guide ads, and also in some newsletters by the city, the senior center, the school, to the school staff, and then the utility billing outreach as well. And then for all 3 rounds, Sarah mentioned this a little bit, but there was outreach to all the boards and commissions as well. Finally, the city has a really great calendar of events throughout the year, and Rachel and Sarah and Miranda made sure that our Gahanna had a presence at many, if not all, of those events throughout this process. So you can see a list here. I won't read them all because I'm sure that some of you were at these events and saw our Gahanna there, but it really did a great job of just getting it out into the community and making sure that people were aware, you know, these are events that they already are at, so kind of meeting them where they are already.
Great. So I hope you can appreciate when I said intentionality and effort that went into this process. We really, I think, with city staff, really made sure that it was a choice for people to get involved, and we were really pleased with the turnout and the level of commitment and engagement that we saw from the community. So that all leads to this plan that we're going to hit at a high level here. But I first want to just talk about the plan structure. And so we broke this into 2 parts because there was a charge to do both a strategic plan and a little deeper dive on economic development to create an economic development strategy. So we ended up kind of splitting the plan into 2 parts. Each has a introduction and sort of a process moment, so you can understand kind of, again, what we all just presented about all the effort that went in. And then the plan framework, which is the vision, the values, and those goal chapters. And you can see there the 4 main goal chapters in the strategic plan, and then that economic development was pulled out into its own kind of part, and then implementation. And I just want to say that those 4 goal chapters were organically derived from the input, from the process. They were not preconceived, like we think Gahanna needs these things, or all strategic plans need to have these topics. They were really came out from the process and from what people said throughout the process. So I'm going to hand it back over to Bailey. She's going to hit quickly each chapter to give some highlights of that for you.
So each of our chapters starts out with a goal, and then that goal is kind of guided by a set of outcomes and a set of strategies. So there are sometimes a lot of strategies in each chapter, so we didn't list them all. I'll just summarize them. The first goal is about elevating our unique places, and the outcomes really focus on advancing the Creekside District as a vibrant area, fostering inclusive, accessible, and well-maintained parks, and fostering strong and engaged neighborhoods. Those strategies include improving access, walkability, and visibility in the Creekside District, supporting businesses and vibrant spaces, and creating vibrant spaces for dining and entertaining, aligning planning efforts and among the Creekside District, but also among parks and neighborhoods, and creating really a very connected place. Enhancing park infrastructure, and then strengthening some of your neighborhood infrastructure. The second goal focuses a little bit more internally on serving your community, and those outcomes include enhancing internal operations and maintaining a high level of stewardship and safety. Those strategies include embedding the strategic plan into your daily routine, like budgeting, project evaluation, and departmental accountability, improving internal communication and collaboration, modernizing some policies, procedures, and technology, and strengthening safety, sustainability, and emergency preparedness. The third goal is about connecting your community, not just connecting through transportation, but connecting, personally to each other. So those outcomes include advancing a comprehensive mobility network and fostering an engaged and inclusive community. And those strategies include implementing the mobility and trails plans that you have or are in development, exploring inclusive rideshare solutions for some of our groups that don't get around the city as easily, promoting community engagement, which I know you already do, but kind of continuing that and expanding that, and advancing some age-friendly initiatives to support healthy aging and inclusivity. Our fourth goal in the strategic plan is about celebrating your identity, and that includes elevating Gahanna's regional identity within the Central Ohio region, strengthening some placemaking efforts, and enhancing citywide communications and promotion. Those strategies include aligning city branding and marketing with the strategic goals identified in this plan, enhancing placemaking at your gateways and your wayfinding and public art, like through public art, transforming some of your underutilized areas, and improving citywide communication through coordinated marketing and public reporting. In our economic development strategy, we have 3 goals. They're not separated out into separate sections because all of our outcomes kind of support all 3 goals. So those 3 goals are strengthen existing industry sectors to ensure a robust ecosystem, use regional and local market conditions and trends to identify opportunities to nurture new and emerging economic sectors, and work with local stakeholders to deepen an employee-first workforce development model that focuses on existing and emerging economic drivers. And we have 5 outcomes to support that goal, including advancing development and redevelopment of strategic areas, cultivating a thriving small and local business community, aligning economic development tools to strategically attract economic-based companies and other priority businesses, strengthening collaboration and communication with business and community partners, and implementing a sector-based approach to economic development. There are a lot of strategies in the economic development strategy, but a summary just includes identifying and planning redevelopment in strategic areas, aligning with regional partners and transportation agencies to support job centers, supporting small business growth, streamlining development processes and updating land use and infrastructure plans, promoting sustainable development and enhancing coordination with the Community Improvement Corporation, collaborating with schools and workforce partners, and strengthening business engagement through a variety of ways.
All right, so that's all we had to present. I just wanted to say thank you for trusting us with this process. We really enjoyed getting to know you all and your community, and pass it back to Miranda for any questions.
All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate the presentation. I think what we'll do for this one is maybe we'll just go down the line and take things in turn. I'll start with you, Mrs. McGregor, if you have anything. All right. Mrs. Padova.
I don't think so, not right now.
President Bowers.
Sure, yeah, thank you so much. So I think what I heard especially come through from when Mr. Barnhart and Mr. Heilman were presenting was not only did this process create these events and engagement sessions, but it did create opportunity for really meaningful connection. I know that some of the table talk sessions that I hosted helped strengthen relationships and think about what we truly want to happen in our community and what's important to us. And so I think that this process was very positive for the whole community. So a huge kudos to Planning Next. I think that your direction and support on this was really for the good of the community. I have, I guess, 2 follow-up questions, and I don't need answers tonight, but certainly if we can be forwarded these documents. There had been a request in the past, and I have noticed community requests for an appendix that aggregates the data points. Is that something that we could perhaps get attached or appended here?
Yeah, do you mean all like the community engagement input? Yeah, we typically put that as an appendix and have all the raw data and then the summary kind of PowerPoints or presentations with that. So we can definitely do that.
Excellent, thank you. And then the next question would just be to help provide us with, and I think this is useful not just for Gahanna, but I was traveling last week and I met a city council member from a small community south of here, and he had asked about what we were doing in terms of strategic planning. So not just for our purposes, for future councils and for the community, but I think also for other communities, it would be useful to understand what the all-in cost was for the strategic plan. So the consulting fee, all the out-of-pocket expenditures, the mailers, and the other items that you identified tonight. I think that would be very helpful. Because it seems to me that this was really a Cadillac level, which is fantastic. And I think that that's a good benchmark so other communities around can understand what that looks like. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. Mr. Schnetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions per se, just thanks to everybody involved, specifically the steering committee members. I know John and Ethan, we had sat at the table together several times at some of those meetings, and it's not surprising that you two specifically kind of got elevated to the, I guess, be the face of the steering committee. So just appreciate everybody's efforts, that's all.
Mr. Renner.
I actually wanted to just thank you, echo the comments from some of my colleagues, and thank you for all the parties that are involved. Planning Next, Miranda, superior job putting, hosting and getting this together. And gentlemen, thank you very much for your service to our city. One of the things that I'm going to be zeroing in on is actually some of the strategic items, but I was really impressed with the reporting and the outcome-based. Plans, they don't do anything unless you have predicted outcomes and metrics with it. So thank you for including that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renner. Mrs. Jones.
Yes, I will echo the appreciation for all involved and for producing a document that is accessible and easy to track and follow regardless of who you are. So just real appreciation for that. I think just to add what President Bowers shared in the in the appendix, it would be interesting to also see of the 9,000 pieces or 1,500 people polled, what percent were residents, what percent would been business owners, just to kind of see the swath of the type of feedback that we got, if you have that available. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. I would just echo my colleagues in expressing my gratitude to Planning Next, but certainly our steering committee members, and I see a whole side of the room filled with staff and board and commission members. So thank you all for your efforts as well. I know this was a huge undertaking by the administration and the city and volunteers alike. So thank you all very much. Not to put a pin in it or put a button on the conversation, but I get the question a lot, what are you doing with this plan? Is it just going to sit on the shelf? That's always the fear when there's a plan. And there's a helpful, I can't remember which page it was, but in the actual plan itself, there is a one page dedicated to all the other plans the city has. Can you just tie that all together? How does this plan incorporate the other plans and initiatives the city has and tie that all together to make it a functional thing that we can use?
So we like to think of the strategic plan as sitting at the top, right? So a lot of other plans then, kind of feed up into it. It feeds down into other plans. So as you do other plans coming up, really making sure they're aligning with your vision, with your values, with your goals. This plan is purposely, there are outcomes. It is specific. We try to be really specific in the strategy language, but it gives a lot of flexibility for how the staff and elected officials actually implement the plan and create the work programs and things that come from it. So rather than having, like a 400-page document that has it's referencing the Parks and Rec plan, it's referencing an active transportation plan potentially, or anything other that you're doing. So it kind of has to sit at the top to set that sort of overall, I called it a roadmap at the beginning, but you really need to have that sort of North Star, right? And so that's how so I hope as you're making decisions, as your boards and commissions are making decisions, they carry this binder, you carry your copy with you so you can reference it and say, oh, is this whatever project or program really fulfilling our overall vision and our goals? Where is it advancing? And we're going to work to help institute this and implement it throughout. But I think once you get it institutionalized within your city processes, you shouldn't reference anything without saying how is it fitting in. And if it doesn't, it's not saying you don't do it. You just want to be intentional and say, okay, I know it's deviating from our strategic plan, but we're being opportunistic, or some new challenge or some new thing has come into our ecosystem that wasn't around when we did this or whatever. So you can still be opportunistic, but you want to do it with intentionality. You want to know you're following your roadmap, you're following your plan, you're working on your unique places, you're working on connecting your community. How do those things fit in? So it becomes that touch point, I guess. So I think Miranda mentioned we're going to get it printed nicely, but you should carry that plan. You should have it with you when you're working on things for the city, so you can see how whatever discussion you're having or whatever project fits into the overall strategy. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you very much. As Director Vollmer noted, we'll have a public hearing on this item on October 20th and a vote scheduled on November 3rd. There has been a request that this does come back to committee, just for any last minute questions. Thank you. And I will just note, I'm sure it was not coincidence that there is an item later on the agenda that directly speaks to one of the goals in terms of increasing mobility for our older adults and individuals with disabilities. So already putting the plan into action. So thank you all very much. Next up, we will turn to items from the Department of Economic Development. There's Director Gotke. Good evening, sir.
No.
It will. It'll click on.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Council. It's my pleasure to come back to you to further discuss the development agreement for the Creekside expansion project with Connect Real Estate and Benson Capital. I wanted to cover a few things on request. This is all generated by you all and questions that you had for me and for Connect and Benson. So happy to address some of those here. Hoping not to take too much time to do that. Quick review, level setting. What you see here is the parcels we're talking about, phase 1 and phase 2 of the private development, 263 apartments, 2 restaurants, a parking structure, a hotel, and some townhouses in phase 2. Just to remind everybody watching at home, if they haven't heard of this, this is what we're talking about. Here, I added this as what the project is and what the project is not, to try to cut through some of the confusion or discussions that I've had with some of you all are members of the public as well. So this is a privately funded and constructed development. It is not a city partnership with the developer. I answer a lot of questions, or I hear a lot of questions about basically reliving the issues that the first Creekside development may have had regarding the builder and the role that the city had with that project. None of that happens here, in the sense that this is very much like a traditional development that you all are used to seeing. There is a development agreement that you all approve that then triggers a number of other documents, initiatives, oversight measures that are then put into place. It's not like a long-term relationship where the city and the developer are acting together for a common project. It is an addition of foot traffic to Creekside via hotel and residential units. It is the next step in the development of the Creekside district to enhance it as a destination for residents and visitors. It is not a silver bullet to solve Creekside. Again, lots of questions and issues that I hear. This development team sees a market for this project in our city. As you can see, what came out of the Gahanna strategy supports, even though that was done, of course, way after this began, it supports the market data, it supports the theory that the development team has that this will work here, right? That more apartments, more foot traffic, more visitors are needed in Creekside. Again, to support these principles of downtown development that we talked about the last time I was here, that downtown should be the civic and cultural center of your community. More people in a concentrated area equals more activity, more people on the street, more walking, more economic activity, more social interaction. Retail follows rooftops. Stores come after people, particularly concentrated people in a walkable area. Got a lot of questions about if there's all these cars driving down Mill Street, isn't that enough? Well, no, because they're not stopping, right? More people in that concentrated area creates foot traffic. Downtown should be unique. We're not building just another fill in the blank. This is our own project that fits our own unique needs and identity. Mixed-use development optimizes land use. It's often cheaper to build mixed-use developments from a city services standpoint than it is to build suburban-style developments or suburban-style kind of commercial development. Strip malls is a more a different way to put it. And then downtowns, you want to create economic diversity. So that means a variety of things to do. So that's things for residents, visitors, workers, experiences, but then also you want to have a mix of office, visitors, and apartments and residents. What has been lacking over the period of years since the original Creekside development was built was those second two, the residents and the visitors in high numbers. Okay, and then I want to return to this slide a second to think about what you're doing here, what council's role in this thing is, and I'll show you on a subsequent slide how all this works together. So this development agreement that you are considering and will be voting on, that's what you're considering, sort of the four corners of that document. This is what it says. This is the project. This is the city involvement. These are the accountability measures, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're sort of evaluating that, if this is in the best interest of the city, and then making that decision from there. The reason I say that is we can pull strings on this forever, right, in terms of more questions or more issues. Really, what's helpful is to know what those issues and questions are ahead of time so we can work towards them, but then also kind of having this, what's our bright line for decision making? At what point do you all have enough information, or do you feel comfortable enough casting your vote for or against this project? So the faster, the easier those questions and issues come my way, or come to Benson or Connects Way, the better. So I appreciate those of you that have sent questions ahead of time already. That's very helpful for us to get to a result. So I included this from last time as well, just to show, one, the progress, and you can see the green check marks is what we have accomplished, and the orange arrow there is where we're at now. This follows a somewhat linear path, so we have to get through this development agreement section first, and then that will be the genesis of a number of other agreements and efforts there. So from there, then you have the purchase and sale agreements, creation of the TIF, creation of the NCA, building plans get designed, agreements with, and I know some of you may ask this question about the internships or the sponsorship opportunities. Those questions, we don't need to have those until this development agreement item is settled, because there's no point in having them and spending all of that time and effort until we know that this project is viable. Does that make sense? Some of you have asked that question before, and that's really why it comes later because of that. Financing, final deal making on their side also comes after this development agreement. Once you all say, we agree this is a good project for the city, then lots of different organizations get involved, and all of those follow-up items get sorted out. Okay, so public engagement and feedback. I got a number of questions about this. Here is where we are at so far. For the Creekside Reimagined projects, and I put that in quotation marks, or at least one quotation mark there, oops. That is the public and the private project together. So at the Mill Street Market, at the Farmers Market, at Touch a Truck, at the 4 events we've had, public events. It's the Jeff Cockey and Kevin Schultz show, because we are each of the leads for those 2 projects. So we're looking at these together in terms of what public engagement and feedback has been. And you can see what we've done, 200 people at 4 separate events in person. A number of other emails have come in to the creekside@gahanna.gov email. A number of engagements on social media, both ours and third parties. And we set up a page on the Gahanna City page that has information that will then get transferred over, hopefully by the end of the week or early next week, into its own Creekside Reimagined webpage that will live on for the life of this project, I believe. Outside the room you saw on your way in are the most recent public engagement boards from the Open Plaza Day we held last Thursday, where many of you were there. We set up on the plaza and people could come and ask their questions. Lots of good dialogue. And they left their feedback. You can see that out by the doors. Very encouraging feedback on both the public and private development from the public at that engagement. Probably the biggest area of questions that I receive, and maybe you all, is over the 50 parking space parking lot that exists on High Street that is currently owned by the city, which is contemplated to be part of this development agreement. I mentioned the last time I was here, we were doing a parking utilization assessment. Here are some very early results when we went through and counted the usage of that parking lot 3 times a day and on weekends for a period of 2 weeks. So what you can see then is there are 667 surface parking lots from Carpenter to Granville and Mill to Shull. This does not include the parking garage or anything on the south side of Granville Street, or non-marked streets. So these are only marked streets, marked spots, both public and private, 667. Total average usage over the study period was 28% usage, 186 spots out of the 667 aggregated average. Of the High Street lot, there are 50 spots. Total average use, 13 and a half, 27% utilization. And then I broke it down there by AM. We went around 9 o'clock, 9:30. We went around 12:30 for lunchtime, and then we went kind of happy hour, early evening, and then I mentioned we went on the weekends as well. So you can see the utilization there. 10 spots, 20%, 14 spots, 28%, evenings, 21 spots, 43%, and then the weekends average there. All this data exists by spot, by parking lot, by time we counted, by day. That is quite a bit of information to get through, but this is your early parking utilization assessment of usage, that the total average for those 50 spots was 27%. Two more items quickly. We had talked last time we were here about timelines and when we can expect to see progress. I went through the development agreement today and listed those out. I highlighted the phase 1 plan approval in orange because that really is the start, the beginning event, the trigger event for all of the other events. So once the development agreement is approved by you all, there is a six-month inspection period that can be extended for 2 months at the discretion of the developer. I'll remind you that these are maximum timelines. They could happen quicker, but these are no later than dates. 30 days after the end of the inspection period, the phase 1 closing and conveyance occurs. And so then those phase 1, those Mill Street lots will then be conveyed over to the developer. They will have a period of time to submit and get plans approved through the city processes. We're going to have to involve the Army Corps of Engineers. So there'll be, all levels of government will have approval, oversight in this, which can be lengthy at times. So from there, then those timelines start. 6 months to create the new community authority, 18 months to submit plans for phase 2 from the phase 1 plan approval. Phase 2 closing and conveyance will be 18 months after. Remember, I said last time that we will retain ownership of the parking lot so that we can continue to assess the need, its usage, and alternatives for when it can no longer be utilized. So we will retain that, and phase 2 closing and conveyance will happen well after the phase 1 closing and conveyance. Big picture, 36 months to achieve substantial completion from when the phase 1 plan approvals are received. That would then, failure to do that would then trigger the accountability measures, which I have on the next slide. And then phase 2 begins after phase 1. Again, these are maximum timelines. They could happen sooner, but again, this will be a period of years before it's all completed. I can let the development team speak to that better if they like. And then lastly, we talked about accountability. A lot of questions about how do we make sure that the problems of the prior Creekside development aren't realized again. So there are five measures that are built in. We still have to work out a bit in the development agreement to clarify a couple of these things. But generally speaking, Semi-annual reporting is due that the developers will have to submit to the city so we know what their progress is. There is a completion guarantee that the developer will sign. There is a reconveyance clause for non-performance. If they don't build in a certain period of time, then those parcels reconvey back to the city. There is loan step-in rights for the city in the case of loan default. We don't know what economic conditions may exist in the next few years, and so what we're trying to do is consider all of the ways that the city may involve itself to minimize the risk. This is, again, at the city's discretion as well. It's not like if there's some economic catastrophe that then the city would sort of be stuck with this project, for lack of a better term. And then I mentioned earlier that the city is not guaranteeing this financing. There's no kind of public-private partnership involved here. So you probably have questions, maybe more now than when we started, but that's it for me.
All right,
Thank you.
very much, Director, and thank you to our guests, Mr. Lamb and Mr. Benson, for joining us again this evening. Appreciate you being here. Any questions or discussion from my colleagues? I don't think I'll just go down the line this time. I think I'll just open it up, unless there's a strong preference for me to go down the line.
I have a couple.
Okay, Mrs. McGregor, we'll start with you.
One, who wrote the developers agreement?
It's a joint effort between all the parties.
But
So
was there
we're
an
passing it back and forth with different versions,
Did we have,
comments.
what attorney was, I guess, for the city?
We had Frost Brown Todd and McKelly assisted us, and Nate Green from the Montrose Group as well worked very heavily on that agreement.
Okay. I didn't know, I was thinking.
Yeah, so they drafted it, and then the city attorney, acting as the city attorney, is reviewing it as well with counsel from Benson and Connect.
Second question, are you saying that the parking lot parcels will not be transferred at this time for the development agreement?
Yes,
Delayed transfer.
it's a delayed transfer.
Okay. But is it in the agreement that the one, and I don't have it now, there's some place where it lists all the parcels that'll be transferred. And one of the parking lot parcels is listed in it, but the other one is not. In one of the, and I don't seem to see it here right now, but.
Yeah, you're right, that parking lot is two separate parcels.
Right.
It is the intent that both parcels will be included in the project. We will verify that.
Right, but in the, I don't have it here, I had it, there's a list of all the parcels that will be transferred. One of those parcels was in it, one was not.
Okay. We will verify that they're all included before
So
you all vote.
Why are they included if we're not transferring that? I mean, we're not going to
Because it's all one project, so we want to list the scope of the entire project in the agreement. And then we built in the delayed transfer so that we would have time to understand better what the long-term needs would be.
Is that listed in the agreement?
The delayed transfer? Yes.
Okay. Can we do phase one without doing part two?
I would look at Connect and Benson for that answer.
So we view the overall project as two phases. Sorry about that. Bob Lamb Connect. So we view it as one project, but with two phases from a development approach. So what we have agreed to by working with the city is that we contain the overall project, both phase one and phase two, within a single development agreement, but that we've agreed to allow the city to retain ownership of the phase two area up until we hit that 18-month post-phase one plan approval. That provides the city with ample amount of time to be able to address any parking concerns that could arise from the development of that site. I would state that I think Jeff and his team has done an excellent job on pulling together the parking data for that area, which I think highlights at that high level of 43% of the lot being used, that there is more than enough service capacity within the Creekside area to accommodate the development of that lot.
But you said those were public and private lots. Are, like, the private lots, are they going to allow people to park there after hours for events? I mean, just because there's parking spaces doesn't mean they're available for public
My
parking.
intent is not to present any solutions tonight. I was giving you a snapshot of the early data that can kind of help us then understand how many spots we need to go find, possibly through sharing agreements with the private lots. It's too early for that discussion.
That's my question for right now.
Thank you, Mrs. McGregor. I saw Mr. Renner next.
Yeah, actually, so let me gather my thoughts a little bit. Director Gaki, I was paused a little bit because of your answer to Councilwoman McGregor about the parking. It was my understanding that the garage that will be built will be a complete transfer of the 50 lots on the surface, and the public could actually use the garage. Is that not correct?
Bob, do you want to talk about the?
Yes, so we agreed to be able to self-park our project, so the garage will be built in a manner in which it fully parks the apartments that we're proposing, the hotel that we're proposing, and then provides additional parking on the retail side for individuals seeking to park in that location. It is not our intent to charge individuals using certain spots within the area if it is retail oriented. There will be spots reserved for use for the apartments, for the hotel, and most likely a few spaces rented to the restaurant components that are looking at the project. But yes, there will be additional parking on site.
Okay, so that helps greatly. I think if I understand, and let me just, say it again, that the public portion of the lot, and I totally understand that you're going to reserve some spaces for the apartments, for the hotel, and the restaurants. This makes sense. But the balance of what's left over, is that going to be allowed for the public to just, visit Creekside District?
Yes, so how you find in mini garages, there'll be spaces marked as private or reserved, however we so choose to mark them. Most likely, there will be spaces available on the first floor of that garage, the entry level, that are not needed to accommodate the project. That is how we're forecasting the garage today. Without having final engineering or design down, I cannot tell you the exact number of those spaces. What we have 100% agreed to in the development agreement is that we will be self-parked fully for any uses on our site, and currently the size and scope of the garage would provide for additional parking that would be available. It is not our intent to charge for that parking if it is from a retail nature.
Okay, thank you. This makes sense, although as a public representative, I'm still a little shaky because you don't have numbers. And I get it, I understand that you still need to do that engineering question about that, but, okay. The other questions that I have is, Director Gotke, you did an excellent job of summarizing the nature of the development agreement. And you're right, it is at a high level about the business transactions. And the council is responsible for in this agreement. I do have some questions about this, and it's So let me back up a little bit. I've been a vocal proponent of this project since the beginning, and you gentlemen know that. And I will continue, unless I see a fatal flaw, of being a proponent of this project. What is before us is making sure that we have understanding and immortalized in the agreement that the processes, as we understand them today, are encapsulated in the agreement. So it's by that vein that I'm going to be asking these questions. The agreement itself, after the recitals, and forgive me, I had a cursor. It was at the very beginning, but after the recitals, it was actually talking about, I think it was in Article 2. Right, so it defines, even though, Director, you actually still say that this is not a public-private partnership, it actually is in the agreement as a public-private partnership. But I understand the terms as it is defined. And it clearly says that, look, the city is basically going to do X and the developer is going to do all the other stuff. And everybody can actually go read. I'm not going to go into it. But what does bring out to me is, again, the question that I have about the milestones. And I think if you can go back to that slide, I think we're getting there, but I have some extra questions.
Would it be possible, council member, for me to address that private partnership question that was?
Absolutely. Please say whatever you want for the record.
Thank you. I very much appreciate, and I very much appreciate Jeff's presentation on this matter. I understand the previous structure from 2007, 2008 had the city partaking in the bond backing for the project overall. And I think the intent of the clarification that was tonight was to highlight the fact that we are not asking for the same financial structure that the previous Creekside developer had proposed and had agreement from the city, where the city was taking on a financial responsibility to back those private bond, the bond issuances being done as part of that project overall. When we began conversations with the city, it was made clear to us that that type of a financial structure was off the table. We respected that request, and we proceeded to go forward with trying to plan out a project in a manner in which that item would not have to be on the table. That is one of the reasons that I believe when you look at Article 12 of the agreement, the incentive structure, you will see that we highlight a multitude of different incentives in order to be able to make this project financially feasible at the end of the day. That includes both support from the local municipality, Gahanna, as well as the state, because we understand that without that support from a financial backing to the bond, we are responsible for the project. We want to deliver a great project to the community. And in order to do so, we do need those financial incentives to be able to bring the project forward, such as the CRA and all the other items that are listed under that section. So I just want to clarify that we do very much feel this is a partnership, just not a financial partnership in that manner.
Mr. Webb, thank you very, very much for that clarification. I think that's actually really good. On the timeline, Director, I'm just trying to actually understand, okay? I understand, well, let me back up. What's plan approval mean?
Receiving construction permits. So all of the necessary plans have been submitted to the entities, they've been stamped, and construction can begin.
But that would also include the entire planning and review process that has to happen internally, submission of plans going
Correct.
through
Correct.
the planning department, engineering review, public safety review, parks and recreation review, all of the various departments, then coming to planning commission, and that all is part of that process.
And thank you, Mayor, because that's directly my point, is that, do you really think that that's actually going to happen in 6 months?
No,
Oh,
that's
no.
not required to happen in 6 months. The 6 months is an inspection period, basically due diligence on the property.
Okay, so you understand why this is confusing then a little bit. Thank you. So when does plan approval take place? Because down further is 18 months substantial completion. So I'm trying to understand spatially in my head, if substantial completion is 18 months, where does the plan approval exist?
I think some of the confusion is you gave maximum timelines, but it isn't a timeline in the sense of this is 18 months, this is 36 months, this is this. He's identifying different milestones, to your point, Councilman, as to what will take place. The phase one plan approval process could take up anywhere from 6 months to a year. By the time it goes through all of the plan review and submission and goes through planning commission and gets approvals, if there's variances that are needed and all of those things, just that phase one plan approval in and of itself, that fourth block, could be anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So. Itself. Correct. So you're looking at 36, I think if I'm understanding you, you're looking at 36 months saying this whole timeline's 36 months.
Right.
No, I think it's that help me, Jeff. that block is 36 or Bob, yeah.
So as we're looking at this process, we have various professionals that we need to engage, whether there are engineers, environmental engineers, architects, all of those things that we have to go through the process of. They have to create the plans, submit the plans to the city, receive approval from the city and also from state entities that oversee that process. So that is what's foreseen by phase one approval, is when we actually have a building permit in hand. From the moment of getting that building permit, we have 36 months to hit substantial completion on the project.
From that moment.
From that moment.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think, Director, you've answered the question about the management of the process. It's going to be your office then. And are you envisioning publicizing where the status is on the milestone?
I hadn't considered that yet. There will be a robust public engagement, mostly around the construction timing and phasing and how to mitigate those effects to the public. I hadn't considered publishing the milestones that are met as you see up there.
Yeah, it's just a manage of expectations a little bit, because since this is such a mixed response in the public right now.
So it would be our intent, again, we have a webpage that's being built out right now that is expected to be done, at least to be available to the public by the end of the week. We'll continue to build that out as we gather more information. It would be our expectation, much like we did with the Facilities for the Future page, where we continuously updated every public conversation and tried to give updates on the 825 project, that we would do the same with this. Assuming this project is approved, that we would continuously link any public conversations that happen and also give updates just in terms of, here's just a brief project update, because we have businesses and residents that live in that district. So keeping them informed as to what's happening and where that is in the process would be, I believe, of utmost importance to all of us. So the intent of creating that website, quite frankly, instead of web page is probably a better word to use, would be so that we have a mechanism to continuously connect and engage and inform our residents, our business owners, as this project were to evolve.
Okay, thank you. With that, I didn't see anywhere in the document or the agreement, but is it, this thing that I'm thinking, is it in the agreement, and that is quarterly financial statements of the TIF, the NCA, and all that kind of stuff. Is that, in terms of being very public and transparency, can we have that?
Quarterly financial statements for the NCA and the
Yeah,
TIF?
quarterly, semi-annual, something.
I mean, legally, they're required to be reported annually. Turk to the county auditor and NCA to the NCA board.
Okay. Is there any way that we can actually do a little bit shorter? You know, and it
That's a
doesn't have to
question
be.
for the finance department and what
Right.
their wherewithal to generate those
Okay.
reports are.
Okay.
It would be a long time before either of those are producing anything, just with
I
the
understand.
timelines and construction.
Yeah, and you're right,
paybacks.
it's actually on the other side, but okay. The only other thing that is squishing in my head a little bit is, you like that term, squishing? And you're right, we have a very robust process in the city called Planning Commission, and to look at the design elements. But gentlemen, you've made renderings and you've whet our appetites for that. And can you actually give us an idea about the renderings as is, and will they change at all, or percent, or even the Sky Bridge? It's not detailed in the agreement, but is that a thing? Is that a real thing?
So we were asked if we would provide renderings regarding the project. We raised the concern of providing those renderings before having gone through Planning Commission. We find the renderings to be absolutely excellent. We think it's a great fit for the area. We think it's a great representation of the project overall. So yes, it is definitely our intent to stay as close to those renderings as we are permitted to do so by Planning Commission. We will absolutely work with them to find what is best at the end of the day for the community overall. But we do think the proposal that we have put forward is spot on for what the community needs, and that does include the bridge.
Okay, very good. A constituent emailed in a couple of very simple questions. One is the grant funding. It's about demolition. If the grant funding does not fully cover demolition costs, who's going to pay the difference?
Well, that would have to do with the timing of this agreement, because the intent is to have the developer demolish the buildings, because that way they can control the infrastructure that currently is there. They know what they need in terms of building for the future. So it was their request, actually, that they be the ones to actually demolish the current sites. They would absorb those costs. We would reimburse them the grants, and then the costs would be on them. If the agreement is not passed and we have to demolish the buildings on our own in order to take advantage of the grant, that actually has to do with the second agenda item tonight, so we're advancing a little fast forward. But if this agreement isn't passed and the city has to demolish that, then it's a little different story.
Thank you for that clarification, Mayor. The second question is if the developer were to pay full market value of the $5 million, in other words, the land, would the project still be viable, or is it only viable with 100% transfer? And I know you've answered this before, but could you?
So very quickly, the project would not be viable. I would also tell you that the land market value of $5 million is not what the market would carry today.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What do you mean by that?
Market value is determined by what an individual would pay in order in which to build the site. As you've seen with engagement on this site, there is not a development company that is interested in spending the $5 million, nor could we spend that $5 million in any way be able to finance this project.
I understand. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'm done.
All right, thank you, Mr. Renner. I saw Mr. Schnetzer and then Ms. Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I do want to address, Mr. Gaki, you had asked, like, what's the bright line, right? Where would we begin to start to feel comfortable? One thing that would be necessary, and it's not the only thing, but it is one thing that would be necessary for me in order to advance this, would be a full review by the city attorney's office, make sure that all of the various risks to the city are thoroughly vetted, thoroughly reviewed. Just in layman's terms, whoopsies, and how are those handled? I mean, if after breaking ground, there's some unaccounted for infrastructure that's found underground, who pays? And I guess what I'm looking for here is the city's financial risk ultimately capped, right? We understand that this is, albeit not a financial partnership, it is a partnership in the sense that, you guys are doing what you do, the city has responsibilities too, as defined in the developers agreement, but at the same time, I think we need to have a full understanding of what are the risks to the city. So that would be my ask, is that before there's a vote, I think before we can reasonably expect a vote, we need to have a thorough review by the city attorney's office. That's the one thing from me. The rest here are just questions that in general I have received from the public in some way, shape, or form from people from really all walks of life. So I think that these are widely held, and I think the answers would go a long way to informing the public's understanding of what to expect. One was similar to what Mrs. McGregor asked, which is this concept, if you will, this idea of phase 1 and phase 2 separation. I believe the answer is no, but I didn't hear the word no. So I'm just curious, again, this is a question from the public, is it impossible to separate phase 1 and phase 2?
From a development agreement standpoint, yes. We have to be able to know what we're getting into, especially from a financings.
Thank you so much. In regards to phase 2, another question that I've been asked is this idea of, as we saw on the map up there, there is one parcel that's not controlled. What's the vision, what's the plan for ultimately how to resolve that, at what cost, and to whom?
That is a privately owned parcel, so I cannot speak to the ability to acquire it. What I will say is we've reached out. We have not received comment back.
Okay. In line with my original concern, I would just ask that this topic be looked at through the prism of the developers agreement. If that's like another contingency, potential cost on the city, I think we need to know that. Again, this topic of parking seems to be a recurring one from the public. With regard to phase 2, has there been any consideration for on-street parking around the phase 2 parcels as a way to limit the overall net reduction by giving up the 50 spaces on the surface lot? An example would be the angled on-street parking that is found on North High Street that might better stack vehicles. And again, I don't know to the size of the project. I mean, we've seen some renderings, we've seen some lines on a map, but is it possible to tighten up that project to allow for some of that angled parking? And I don't know if that's been discussed amongst your team and your teams. So that would be, again, we don't necessarily have to answer that now, but just something for consideration.
I would say from the development standpoint, we're happy to work with the city to see what's possible.
Sure.
Without final engineering, I can't give a specific answer.
Yep, understood. Thank you. And then the last one was also on this topic of demolition. It is my understanding that the grant that we have in hand will not demolish all parcels, that it will demolish some, but not all. So the question is, those remaining parcels, what is the plan for those? Is that expected to be covered by the city, or is that expected to be covered by the developer?
So during our conversations with the city and the structuring of the development agreement, we viewed the allocation of those grant dollars as the only financial contribution that would come forward for the demolition side. So we would not be looking at the city to cover any additional costs for that demo work. Now, that is obviously all contingent upon the ability for the project to be approved in the development agreement standpoint and within a time frame that allows us to demo within the grant structure.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Schnetzer. Ms. Bowers.
Thanks, everyone, for your time again tonight and the additional information that's been presented, particularly related to parking. What we have in front of us, just to clarify, because I don't know that this is necessarily clear to everyone, but what we have in front of us is a draft development agreement, and my understanding is that there are red lines being exchanged currently. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And so council has not yet seen a final development agreement. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. And I think I had also asked last time, and Mr. Gotke, just to make sure that there's clarity, there had been a question about what's additionally needed, and I know that you are working on a fiscal impact analysis, and so I very much appreciate that, along with clear ROIs for us to review as well. So those are kind of the broader picture things that I think I am still in need of at this point. I did have, Mr. Lamb, we had a productive conversation last week, and I thought it would be important to talk a little bit about breaking down Phase 1. It was helpful for me to understand that Phase 1 would be Phase 1A and Phase 1B. Could you share a little bit more about that tonight?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Jeff, would it be possible for you to bring up the map? So, looking at Mill Creek, you see the two Phase 1 concepts, one on the west side, one on the east side. The west side building would be the first one that we would begin construction on. We would also, on the east side, begin construction of the garage at the same time. The garage would allow us to provide parking on site, retaining our parking on the Phase 1 sites for that Phase 1 apartment building that would become available on the west side. Upon completion of the garage, we would begin the process of the Phase 1 west side apartment and retail and hotel project side of it. So because that would abut against the existing garage and provide the structure for parking for those additional services. So you would see construction beginning on both the east and west side at roughly the same time in order to accommodate each other from a construction development standpoint. Again, with the west side, the Creekside area building coming online first, tied in at the same time with the garage to provide parking for that Creekside west side area, and then the remaining build out on that east side beginning with the completion of that garage.
Initially, I think when this project came in front of us, there had been discussion about use of the city lot for construction traffic during that initial phase of Phase 1. Is that still going to be necessary based on the construction timeline or kind of the phasing of Phase 1?
Yes, so off of the alleyway behind the east side Phase 1 property, there is a lot. We originally had been in talks with the city to acquire that lot as part of the overall development agreement. We were asked if that was absolutely critical to the project. We said that from an permanent ownership standpoint, it was not, but it would be needed as a lay lot and construction area as we did the Phase 1 project. So it is our intent to be able to use that during the construction period, and then as quick as we can to get off of that site, but it will be needed definitely for the Phase 1 construction process.
Director Gotke, I noticed you had your mouse hovering over the lot just directly to the east of Phase 1 and not over the city lot that's identified in Phase 2. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding?
Correct, and I believe that's the lot that you were referring to.
Correct.
This one here where my cursor is?
Yes.
Yes, so just for the record, that's a CIC-owned lot and not a city-owned parking lot.
What's currently, who's using that lot currently?
No one.
No one really.
Is that, but that lot is part of the developers, one of the ones to be transferred in the developer's agreement?
No.
I think I check that.
That's, we have to we all agree, we have to verify the parcels and what's
Yeah, check
included. That
check
should
out those
not be.
parcels. I went through them all today, and that
When-
lot is included.
And so when we began drafting of the development agreement, that lot was going to be included
Okay.
in the transfer. We are updating the parcels right now, and I think your question on the Phase 2, we had swapped out that lot for that additional one over on the Phase 2 site. So the next round of drafts that are coming will have those parcels addressed.
Okay, thank you.
So let me make sure I'm crystal clear. So the city-owned lot that is directly north of the sanctuary will require that for construction?
So it is not our intent to place equipment on there at this time. It may serve as some parking overflow for construction workers, but we will not be closing it off during the period of construction. We have asked that we be able to use it for parking, the same as any general individual in the community would be able to use it.
Okay. I think maybe something to think about, especially as we're identifying I recognize that we've identified that there are over 900 spaces between public and private lots in the Creekside District, and that loss of the city lot would be approximately 50 spaces, and that on any given day, we're only using about 21 or 22 at peak. I would ask that we maybe consider that construction use take no more than perhaps 20 spaces or 25 spaces in that lot, so that we can, so long as we have that, if we're setting the expectation that the city is going to maintain control over the city lot until that out point, until that 18-month out point, then I just want to make sure that we are setting expectations correctly for the community, that they will continue to have, and, have access to that lot during that time period.
I think we also identified the CIC lot that's there. I think there's about 20 spaces there.
Excellent.
There's spaces along the Kumon building as well. So I think that we can accommodate that without any problem.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Let me just go back to my notes here. So I guess I'll just share that generally speaking, I'm pretty excited, I think, by the project overall. I'm excited by the partnership with Connect and Benson, and I think that this is going to Director Gottke's presentations, fill some of the gaps and some of the needs in the district, while not being a silver bullet or being the solution to everything that we need to address. Overall, I'm looking forward to, I think, finalizing review of the development agreement, making sure that we've all done our due diligence to thoroughly vet what is being presented to us, and make sure that expectations are aligned with what is going to happen to the best of our ability. Director Gottke used a fantastic phrase the other day about making sure that we're building confidence within the public, that we are looking at this, we're making sure that we're going to deliver a great product and a good outcome to the extent of our capabilities. And I know that the administration is working diligently on that, and this council has an obligation as well, too. And I trust that Connect and Benson Capital are doing the same. I will, before I turn things over, I suppose, share that at this point, because I have not had a chance to review a development agreement or have a chance to look at the fiscal impact analysis, I really appreciate all the work that went into today's presentation, but I personally would not be ready to move forward with a vote on the 20th, because I won't have enough time to, I think, have thoroughly vetted the development agreement. And I certainly would also defer to the city attorney and ensure that she's had adequate time to review red lines as they come back to her as well. So it would be my preference at this point to just share my expectation that there would be a postponement of the vote. We can kind of see how things progress to see what that date discussion might be at the next meeting. But I certainly don't think that I'm going to be ready on the next week to vote.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers. I saw Ms. Padova and then Ms. Jones.
Thank you. So some of my questions have been answered here, but I might kind of just ask again for clarity. But I do believe that you guys were pretty clear on that. The CIC owned parking spots, not the public, but the CIC owned spots, that one will not be conveyed. And we've figured out that would be roughly like 20 spots.
I believe it's about approximately 20 spaces in there.
And so would the CIC continue to hold that, or would that possibly come back to the city to be a city?
Good question. So early, I'm going to actually reference something that Director Gaki said earlier when he was talking about the parking utilization assessment. So right now, I think we've been focused on trying to understand what the parking needs are, what's currently available there, how often are they being used, so that we can understand the problem. Because then we can move to, here's potential solutions. That certainly is a potential solution. Councilman Schnetzer referenced, utilizing some of the right-of-way and maybe including parking there. Those are all things that we can consider. We're just not there yet because we have to understand what the need is. So that is something we've talked about is, hey, maybe we could do this. We need to look at what would be the best way to effectuate that. Does CIC hold that? Does that get transferred back to the city? Does it become a city lot? I don't know the answers to those yet. Those are all potential solutions. But again, I think to this point for tonight's presentation, it was, here's where we are right now, which is just trying to understand the extent of any impact on parking down there. Then we can move to the next phase, which would be, and here's the recommended solutions.
Okay, thank you. And I think that makes sense, especially based on just the information provided this evening and the amount of parking that we need or desire down there. And once things hopefully come to fruition at some point, we can kind of see what we need to do with that space. I do hear a lot of the concerns, like my colleagues, about the parking. I do think that as far as the sanctuary goes, that while they do use that lot, I think that they would also be able to have with the boutique hotel down there, have a draw for people who want a place for, if they're having a wedding, for their guests to spend the night. So I do think that would help offset some of the parking for different events. Just having a hotel there, naturally there will be some guests that are spending the night using that parking garage the way that you guys intend to. My bigger concern with the parking spot is some concerns that we've heard from Marlowe's, because they're right there. They're a restaurant that has a lot of carry-out and not necessarily everyone going in and staying there for a while. You probably wouldn't want to park in the garage to then walk up and down the street and around the corner to Marlowe's. Are those spots around, the parking spots right there on the corner, are those public, or are those owned by the building owner? Those are owned by, I see Kevin shaking his head.
They're public.
There, okay.
We're talking about the ones right on, those are street parking. Those are all public
it's public
spaces.
street parking,
And
okay.
those would remain.
Okay. And would there be a way, I'm not sure if they have this, I meant to check when we were actually there the other day, and I forgot, but would there be a way for us to mark a couple of them, take out specifically for them, so that then they would have, is that something that could be considered?
I think that's a legal, they're public spaces. I don't know that we can do that. We've actually had a number of businesses along High Street ask if they could have their own space reserved, which then creates an issue. But during a special event, that maybe there's something, but we would have to explore that. I don't know that we could do anything permanently.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there were issues with that, or what that might be able to look like. I certainly don't want to see them lose any business. I feel like they have done such a good job building up their clientele, and it's such a nice spot there. Let me see, my questions are a little bit out of order here. Can you go back to the one that has the order of events, essentially? right here. So are we, I was under the impression that that we would be conveying the land after they got all of their approvals from Planning Commission, but it looks like that will happen sooner than them getting the approvals. Is that correct?
Right. Within 30 days after the end of the inspection period is when the closing and conveyance of the Phase 1 parcels would occur.
Okay, and so if something were to happen and Planning Commission doesn't like the design, they don't, if something happens there and things don't get approved, then what happens with the land?
So we're under an obligation to transfer the land back if we do not proceed with
Okay.
development.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure on that. And then will we be getting the different events and feedback and everything? Will you guys be sharing that with us somehow, aside from just the boards out there this evening? From the, I know,
engagement
yeah, the public
events.
engagement, like the one at Creekside where people were doing the answering the questions on their phones. Do you guys have that information to share with us, or will you?
We don't have that yet, but we will be. I believe, my understanding, Miranda's been working with planning next on that. You want to speak to timing?
Sure. We can provide it to you when it's available. We just haven't, that event was Thursday night, so we haven't had time to get it to planning next or get it aggregated. That's why we put the boards up. But the Mentimeter that we did at the Creekside Event Center, and then the same questions that are out there on the boards, those are the same data points, so we have the same data sets. And then the group discussion that was done and the questions that were asked, we can get all that information to you when it's finalized.
Do you know when that will, will it be before we vote on this?
I'm unclear when you're voting on it, so I can't.
What's your timeline?
Yeah,
on-
what-
On being able to provide that to us?
Sure, I can talk to planning next and try to get that to you within the week or next week.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that my only other question, and I know that this is probably going to be, we don't have that yet because this is a difficult thing to ask. But another thing that we're hearing a lot about is the traffic. I know that there will be traffic studies done. I know we did one a few years ago that kind of got us to this is what we need in Creekside. But if there are things that are required, would we be the ones paying for, I know in the last one of the recommendations by, I think, was it MNA? I'm trying to pull that up. But they recommended like a roundabout at Carpenter, not saying that we need a roundabout at Carpenter, but if there's something substantial like that, would that be something that we would be paying for, or is that something that the developer would be paying if we're moving the traffic flow?
I think that is we don't know what the traffic impacts will be or have any ideas in terms of what we would want to do or what a recommended course of action would be to mitigate traffic in the area. I want to remind everybody that is US 62, so we can't just do whatever we want. It's going to involve multi-jurisdictions, and I see Cornell Robertson actually sitting in the back. He's going to shake his head, absolutely. So I think that anything that we would do in terms of traffic mitigation efforts down in there is a long discussion that's going to involve more than us.
Okay. All right, I think that is all the questions I have, but thank you guys for being here tonight. I will echo some of the things my colleagues have said, that I am a big proponent of this plan. I think that we have the right combination of things. I feel like what we know today as the Creekside District, or as the Creekside development that is there now, it is it is not complete, and this doesn't necessarily complete it, but it adds to it, and it opens doors for more things to come once this is hopefully complete at some point as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Padova. Mrs. Jones.
All right, I'll try to be quick, because I know I'm last. But again, just thank you, everyone, this is a big moment for our community. So thank you for everyone that continues to work on this and weigh in. One thing that I want to just understand and clarify. So Connect, the intent is to do the demolishing of the CIC-owned stuff. Does the transfer of sale have to happen first for you all to be able to do that?
No, we would just be asking that the development agreement be approved before we would proceed with the demolition work. So Connect is a vertically integrated company. We have our own GC arm attached to it. That GC, Connect Construction being the construction arm, would enter into an agreement with the CIC in order to do the demo of whatever buildings were designated for that round of work.
Okay. So then the CIC would still own it from that time to it's officially transferred to you. So any carrying cost, whatnot, is still a responsibility of the CIC in that in-between gap. Is that correct?
Yes, because we would not be owners of the property at that time.
Okay. And I guess will that land be reassessed or something once those buildings are gone so that the CIC is not paying taxes on things that aren't there? Like, how does that work?
Yes, there's a form that's filed with the
Okay.
county auditor that says the buildings were demolished and a reassessment occurs.
Okay. Then the last question that I just had is, we appreciate your investment and wanting to be in our community and appreciate the development agreement, sharing things like the internship for students, supporting events for 10 years. Those things within the development agreement, though, at least as I was reading through them, and again, not a lawyer, contracts aren't my strong suit, but it felt like there wasn't contingencies or like accountabilities if those things don't happen. So I wonder how we address that. I mean, I trust that you will, but on paper, like, how do we have the accountability to make sure that those things do happen?
So two different points in how I would take that accountability standpoint. One is, until the development agreement is really authorized, we're not in a position to engage in in-depth conversation with the school district or others on what exactly it is they would like to see from us. If we do not live up to those statements within the development agreement, we would be in breach of a contractual agreement with the city, and that would be the mechanism which you could use that to enforce us to act on it. What I would tell you is those terms are very similar to the terms that we entered into with the city of Marysville when we proceeded with that development. We've engaged, I've met multiple times with the school district in Marysville in order to launch the internship program. We are looking to start moving dirt on that project at the beginning of the year. So those internships would start pretty much immediately following that if they so wish, or going into the following school year if that's a better accommodation for them. So we're engaged in that. In fact, at one of the community events here, I did have the opportunity to speak with some of the individuals at the schools who would be overseeing those programs. So officially those conversations have not started, but at least we've gotten to shake hands, meet each other, and I would say we're very much looking forward to diving into that conversation.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Mrs. McGregor had a couple follow-ups here.
Two more. When I was reading through this, and again, I am not an attorney either, on 6.1, I have a problem with this, understanding you have the right to sell, lease the property. What?
So upon it transferring to us and we begin the project, we have to retain the right to be able to sell or lease the property because we'll be establishing separate entities in order for that sale to occur. We are obligated to go through with the general development that is specified within the development agreement. So the agreement you have in front of you is with
That's over my
two
head.
different development firms.
Okay.
Those development firms will establish separate entities that their sole purpose is to hold the property, and to develop the property in accordance with the development agreement. I have to be able to transfer that property into those special created entities that hold it.
Is that standard business practice?
Yes, every single one. I think currently we have 97 to 102 LLCs under us as a development company. So that is why you see that language in the agreement.
Okay, that just gave me a little bit of pause there. Okay. The second one is on the TIF. Is there any way, and I don't know that this question is to you, is there any way that we could include Mifflin? Because these are buildings that are much higher than we have anywhere else, much taller. And they may need to have special equipment on the possibility if there would be a fire or some kind of, need to, can we include Mifflin as one of the ones that doesn't get their taxes taken away? See, does that make sense? We've done that, I think we did that in the Creekside TIF. The schools in Eastland are exempted. Can we exempt Mifflin also?
If Mifflin Township feels like it's entitled to some of the TIF money, they're welcome to come and ask for it. We're not going to negotiate against ourselves and give it out if it's not being requested.
I guess I'm requesting it.
TIFs are only so good as, like, there's a collective impact there, right? If it just keeps, it loses its usefulness if it's diluted by going to all these different entities. Remember, too, that the $5 million that you all agreed to pay off the CIC loan will be repaid through these various sources. So the more that goes to other places, the less quickly that gets repaid back to the city. So if Mifflin Township would like some money, they can come and ask for it.
I think your question is more along the lines of, we have entities that are excluded from their property taxes going into the TIF, right? So this is a non-school TIF. So
Right.
school property taxes
Right.
are not diverted into the TIF. And I think what Mrs. McGregor is asking is what's the value of Mifflin Township's property taxes, first of all, would be one question. And then the next question would be, is it even possible for us to choose to exclude the property taxes that would have been collected by Mifflin Township from the TIF? So I think those are the questions maybe to come back with.
Sure. We recall, too, that we have a separate compensation agreement with the schools in exchange for expedited processes and their agreement on certain incentive programs, including TIFs. Then there's a separate compensation agreement that doesn't exist with Mifflin Township.
When we did the TIF for Creekside, we excluded Mifflin too, because they were going to have to buy special equipment because they didn't have equipment that could reach 4-story buildings. Now we're going to have a 7-story building. So I'm just saying, and if you say they have to ask it, that's fine. I'll call them tomorrow and I'll say, do you guys want to ask for this? If I can't be the one to ask for it, I'll do that.
I think we heard you. I got it. I think that we have to understand what that looks like. And
Okay.
For my druthers, I think it's probably easier to execute a separate agreement with the township, a standalone agreement, than trying to set aside a continuous stream by diverting it from the TIF. But as someone who works on the administrative side of these things, that would be my druthers. So, did you have was that it, Ms. McGregor?
That's it.
Okay. So I want to give the city attorney an opportunity.
Thank you. So just a word, just to clean up some of the discussion about the 6.1.1 that Mrs. McGregor had a question about with the right to sell, lease, own, or market. I just wanted to be clear that in 6.2, there is a restriction on assignment or transferability of this agreement to anyone except for an affiliate of the developer. So they are creating the special purpose entities, which is standard practice, and this allows that, but they're not allowed to sell to a third party that's not affiliated with them without express approval by the city. So that's another mechanism in there to have a protection on behalf of the city. To Mr. Schnetzer's question, I am reviewing this as far as contingency plans and exposure on behalf of the city. I think that the secondary role that I have here is to ensure that process is followed properly and that we ensure that all the different pieces fit together at the end of the day. And so one of those things, for example, is the TIF, which would be separate legislation that can be discussed at that time when the TIF is created. So I understand there are questions about what would be included or excluded in the TIF. That would not go in this development agreement necessarily. There's certain language in there that's required pursuant to the compensation agreement and other requirements of the TIF to be clear that it's a non-school TIF. But any additional discussion on that item would be had when the TIF was created.
Okay.
And then lastly, the other note that I would make is that there were some questions from Mrs. McGregor regarding the 2 lots that are city-owned lots. So just to be clear, there would need to be, at some point, a conveyance of those properties to the CIC in order to effectuate this development agreement. So the way it's written, and obviously there's still red lines being exchanged and still discussion being made about the specifics of when the conveyance happens and those sorts of things, but in order for those lots to be included in this deal, there would need to be legislation that comes before council to convey that to CIC, because it's listed as a CIC property is where you saw it in the development agreement, and they are city-owned.
So we would have to transfer it to CIC before this developers agreement can, or those parcels can be included in the developers agreement.
So we are still negotiating the details of the red lines, but what I would say is that at some point that conveyance has to be made to the CIC before it can be conveyed directly to the developer. And whether it's in the development agreement as this will happen subject to council approval and then that piece happens later, or whether it happens now prior to the development agreement, that would dictate the specific wording of the agreement. But the draft that you have lists it as a CIC-controlled property, which it is not yet.
City Attorney.
I'll
Mrs.
just
McGregor.
say, I appreciate your work on this, and I approve Phase 1. I am not a fan of Phase 2. So that's what I'll say. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. McGregor. I think in the interest of time, I would just say I look forward to continued engagement and outreach efforts to the community. I think ultimately this will be one of the, if not the largest project in many of our tenures on council. So whatever we can do in terms of the proactive outreach, and I'm not saying it hasn't been under works and in progress, but I think that is helpful for the community at large. Look forward to what the consultant says and getting that website up as well so that we can direct residents there. And then Mr. Lamb, just briefly, we spoke recently about some of the efforts you have been involved in terms of mitigating the effects of construction on area businesses in your other projects. And just wonder if you could touch on that high level, just because that is something that has come up, particularly from current businesses down at Creekside.
Yeah, so we have several projects that are ongoing right now in fairly urbanized areas, whether it's downtown Springfield or next to our trolley site over just off of Broad. On all of those, we have gone out of our way to make sure that we've engaged the surrounding property owners before construction began, that we made ourselves available through contact information and other types of mechanisms so that they would be able to reach us if anything was needed to address concerns that arose during construction. One of the key items with using the industrialized units that we have is that we are able to have less individuals on a construction site than what you would normally find. This means that there is less parking that's being taken up within the area. There's less individuals showing up on site to make noise. There's less waste on site because there's less individuals. All of those things diminish the impact to the surrounding properties. Further, because of the industrialized units, we're able to construct our projects in a faster timeline than what traditional construction allows. That means that we're on-site and off-site, especially with larger equipment, in a faster period of time, minimizing the impact to surrounding property owners. And we would go out of our way, as we've done everywhere else, to engage surrounding property owners before construction began so that they had the proper contact information in case an issue does arise.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Madam Mayor,
Oh, I just had a follow-up question to something that was said earlier.
Mayor.
Mine might be related, because I was just going to ask about revised development agreement and if there is an estimate of when we might see that, if the goal is for us to be voting Monday.
Well, from what I heard, we're not voting Monday. That was at least Councilwoman Bauer. So actually, I have two follow-up questions. One would be, so that we could set expectations, when we could expect to receive a red line version from everybody. I would ask by the end of this week, so that we could have that and council can then have it for, I'm assuming then returning to, I'm already making determinations here as this is coming back to Committee of the Whole on the 27th of October. But then I would ask for, if we could have some direction and expectation as to when you think you would be likely to vote, because there are, again, there's another agenda item that's following this that is going to impact. That's question number one.
I think it's almost, I appreciate the sensitive timeline that we're working with, because I understand that we certainly would prefer to use Connect for the demolition work. It's just, I'm happy to advance this, at the pace at which I think it makes sense, but until we have a final development agreement in front of us, it's hard. It's just very hard for me to say whether I think it could be November 3, November 10, or November 17.
Well, it wouldn't be the 10th because that's Committee of the Whole, so it's.
Procedurally, we could
Or we
call a
could call
special meeting
Correct, we could.
and define the 10th as the date for that ordinance to come forward. So that is an option, but I just don't know what,
Well, can I ask, and looking at the parties in this room, between the city attorney, our development team, both Mr. Gaki and Bob, do we think it's realistic that we could have a finalized red line version by the end of this week?
Yes, from the developers end.
certainly.
Yes.
Well, if we could get that from all of the parties, and then that gets shared with the council in anticipation of the next committee meeting, but sent out so that you can have it when enough time to review?
Yes.
That was the first question. I think you had to.
That's right. Thank you. I forgot. I had a second question. Councilwoman Jones, did you have a question, though? I don't want to usurp you. So along those lines of timelines, I know there was a question over here in terms of us assimilating the feedback that we heard from the community conversations that we had. I would also ask, my understanding is there were some roundtable conversations that happened with you as well, Councilwoman Bowers. If you could provide us with that feedback, and we can roll that in there so that we get everything in an aggregate to make sure that we are capturing feedback throughout the community. I think that would be helpful, and then we can share all of that.
Great.
Thank you.
Oh, Ms. Padova, I'm sorry.
Well, I just wanted to ask, I guess, from Connect, what would, essentially, is there a time that we need to have this, approved in order for you guys to have the demolition done by the end of the year? Are we on a timeline for that?
I'm going to need to talk with our construction and engineering team on that. The loss of even a week at this point is fairly critical given the short period, as well as the unknown weather component that we start to get into at this time. So I would ask to be able to come back even by Wednesday morning and be able to provide an update to the administration.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so we will plan on this item coming back to committee on the 27th at this time. So, thank you very much. We are plugging right along here, so on to the third item for this evening.
That's your right. The demolition.
I thought I was later.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benson and Mr. Lamb.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
maybe after this item? No. Okay. Oh,
We're losing members right and left.
All right, should we take a 5?
Sure.
If you folks need a 5, we'll take a 5. All right, thank you.
Self-imposed.
All right, we will resume committee. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We will move to the second item under the Department of Economic Development.
Great, thank you. Pursuant to the previous 90-minute discussion, try to make this happen a little faster. So this is Plan C to cover the demolition of the buildings in a timely manner. Plan A would be development agreement gets done, demolition can commence and be finished by 12/31. Plan B would be a long shot, short-term extension request from the Department of Development into February or March of next year. That's unlikely. So this is just a protective measure to ensure that the development can happen and the grant money can be utilized. Understand too that if we have to exercise Plan C and use this appropriation, the CIC would not retain the grant funds. It would come back to the city. And so the city would be held harmless in this transaction.
Thank you, Director. Any discussion on this item?
Is there,
Ms. Bauer.
I'm sorry, yes, would there be an agreement executed between the city and the CIC, transferring this money to them, and then also making sure it is refunded back to the city? Okay, and when will that?
Sounds reasonable.
Okay, and can we, when do you think that agreement could come forward?
I think it would depend on it. Honestly, I would have a better idea once we know kind of what council's timing is on the voting of the development agreement in term of to determine whether or not we actually need those funds. And if that's the case, then we would bring that agreement forward.
So you're saying that this ordinance doesn't actually need to advance to first reading next week, that this
No,
just
I'm saying it does. The reason we're bringing it today is precautionary, so that we could have the funds allotted, because if we wait until you do decide to vote or not vote on the development agreement, it will be too late for us to come and do this. So we would like to have the appropriation approved in the event that we need it, in which case we could have that agreement done.
How can we accomplish this in the most efficient way possible with the understanding that the money is going to be refunded back to the city if it's,
Existing agreement that this is covered under. We'll have to work out reimbursement, but that we can't have an agreement.
Would you like to just speak, Director Schultz?
So we believe like the $5 million, that this is a viable expense under the existing annual agreement with the CIC. We'll have to work out the reimbursement particular portion with finance, but I don't believe that there's an issue or that we might need a legal mechanism that puts the CIC on the hook, sure. But the supplemental and the expenditure itself should be covered under the existing agreement because we do not have time to wait for another ordinance executing a separate agreement unless, I guess we can introduce it at the table if that's the will of council on Monday to
So,
pass
like-
with emergency waiver. It's the only way to get it done in the timing that you're discussing right now.
Correct.
so I think if I'm hearing you correctly, so there's typically a $300,000 allocation to the CIC annually from the city. And so you're suggesting,
That this transfer would be consistent with that agreement. This would be another appropriation to CIC via the course of that agreement. You're asking us for an agreement to, okay, if we give this, if we give this to you and you use it and you get those grant dollars need to come back to the city. So you want a separate agreement about the reimbursement of those grant dollars, which we could bring to Director Schultz's point, if we draft something on Monday. And
okay, perfect. I think that solves the concern then.
is that,
Sure. Well, there's a lot of moving parts there, right? I
Right.
mean, Madam City Attorney has to approve it.
CIC?
CIC attorneys have to approve it, so on and so forth. This is the same mechanism. Is this a potential mechanism that can catch up with the supplemental itself?
Director Schultz, let me just pause. I think maybe what would solve it for me would be language in the ordinance that indicates that this transfer,
This is a resolution. This is a resolution for supplemental appropriations and only needs one reading.
She's suggesting that we add, that language be added to the actual resolution indicating that this would be a reimbursable amount.
It's currently in front of us as an ordinance with a waiver, so.
Is this an
whatever
ordinance? I
the-
thought this was a resolution.
It says an ordinance authorizing supplemental appropriations.
I'm out.
Got a waiver.
We went back and forth on this all day.
Listed as an ordinance with waiver requested.
Got it, because it only needs one reading, because
That's the
Because
waiver's
it's a
requested.
supplemental.
it's a supplemental, it doesn't have a 30-day hold.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, had resolution in my head.
So can that be baked? Can the
That's
language
my
be
ask.
amended? Yes.
Correct. Can we amend the language? I think that would
Which
solve.
is what I was just.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
I'm assuming we can do
So
that.
you want it on for first reading. Hopefully it'll be amended before it comes forward for first reading.
On the regular agenda for a vote, because waivers requested.
That's right.
Yeah. Does that sound good to folks? All right. Anything else on that item? All right. Thank you,
We're having all kind of conversations.
City Attorney, you
Does that work
seem
for you,
unsure.
Madam?
Yes, I'm just reviewing the contract that we already have with CIC, and just note that that does expire December 31st. So if there was of this year, so if there was reimbursement obligations that extend beyond December, then it would be prudent to have that addressed separately. But I will certainly turn around anything else.
The agreement for CIC will be
Correct.
coming
Needs
forward
to-
before
for
the end of the
renewal.
year. Correct.
Before the end of
Right.
the year. And so that can either be encompassed in that, or it can be encompassed separately, but yes, the reimbursement should be able to be included.
Okay. Then on regular agenda for next week then. All right, thank you very much. All right, now we're cooking with gas. We got items from the Department of Engineering next, please.
You got 2 minutes, Tom.
Oh, no. So if I did my math correctly, I've got 7 items, 30 minutes each. We're going to be at 11:47 before whoever's going next. I have 7 items before you. The first 6 items are in pairs, if you will, so I'll take 2 at a time. The first 2 items are related to sanitary sewer improvements at Saran and on Klotz Road by Middle School East and Reaver Ridge. We're requesting permission to bid and a acceptance of an access easement to the sewer to the rear lot through 135 Saran. I'll pause there and entertain any questions.
Seeing none, we'll put this on consent.
Okay. The second 2 items are with respect to the Crescent development just off of Tech Center Drive, just north of the new Sheets fueling station. There's a sanitary sewer that was put in as a part of the development that has passed all inspections. It's in its punch list warranty period. With that, there's a conveyance of a sanitary sewer easement that would go through council for recording. So pause there for any questions
discussion
on
of
that.
those items? All right, seeing none, folks good with consent for those then as well? All right, thank you. Moving on.
Items 5 and 6 are related to the sidewalk program. We're looking to amend the program area for the 2026 sidewalk program. The amendment is called forward with respect to, we anticipate doing an urban paving project in coordination with the Ohio Department of Transportation. In 2027, we need to advance work on Hamilton Road, curb gutter, ADA, sidewalk-related work on Hamilton Road and Granville Street, and so that will be taking funds otherwise away from program areas to cover that work that is not covered by the urban paving project. So that is the request to amend the program area and then revisit those streets that otherwise are in there for 27 or 28.
Okay, that makes sense, because does that impact the whole sidewalks follow streets timeline for those areas that were
Yes, they would fall, so like if those streets that we're pulling back from, that were listed, we'd look to do those in 27 or 28, and the program of those years, provide the notice to those residents and do the work in that timeline.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bowers.
Yeah. So just to clarify, the prior sidewalk program that we had approved, the 2026 sidewalk maintenance program that we approved in March, identified, I think, 115 parcels that would have been impacted under that plan.
So we have that and the look-back program. So
Okay.
You have the look-back program and the streets that would be part of the maintenance and follow the maintenance.
And
effort.
this, I'm sorry.
So with doing the work on Hamilton Road, Granville Street, and then looking at compatible streets, I believe it's Hines that we're looking to replace, and it's a longer section to cover that because it's also in a similar pavement condition as those streets. So we're just trying to match overall budget to what we historically see on the program.
And I apologize if I missed this, but so the Hines parcels, I think we have about 30 parcels identified on Hines.
Thereabouts, yes.
And we're not I'm sorry, let me go back. We're not going to, the look-back program remains as
Correct.
as planned. Okay. So the urban paving program, are we receiving a fund share or cost share?
We will from the Ohio Department of Transportation for paving activities on Hamilton Road and Granville Street, inclusive of pavement markings.
Okay, so what percent would they cost share with us? Do we know? Would it be a significant portion?
It is a significant portion, and I can't recall the cost per lane mile that they're capped out at, but it's a significant reduction if we had to bear that cost 100% locally.
I'm just wondering if there's any way to make sure that we're continuing to affect as many residents and homeowners as possible, because there is such a benefit to being in the sidewalk program as opposed to just being code enforced. So I'm just wondering if there's any way for us to continue to touch as many and support as many households as possible. But I do appreciate the inclusion of Hamilton and Granville.
So I would say that programmatically speaking, within our CIP efforts, as we're continuing to tackle street maintenance and reconstruction efforts, that we are making efforts and strides to take corrective action. So seeing those dollars in 27, 28, 29, 2030 through our CIP efforts and the funds that are afforded through those programmatic years, we're moving things forward on ADA compliance through those efforts.
Okay, thank you.
I saw Ms. Jones and then you, Mr. Schnetzer.
The 2026 sidewalk homeowners haven't been notified yet.
That's correct.
Okay, and when would that take place?
So that's the other aspect of this, is buttoning down the program so that we can provide the notification and then give the homeowners the opportunity to otherwise self-perform that work should they choose to opt out. So the longer things progress, we're going to hit winter months and be in a position where we're bidding the project and not necessarily giving as much time as we would like to afford the homeowners in the program area.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Schnetzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have two different programs that are running concurrently, right? There's a look-back program, and then there's the annual sidewalk maintenance. It sounds like what this is doing is redirecting the funds from the annual sidewalk maintenance to take advantage of something that's kind of opportunistically fallen in our lap.
That is correct.
Correct, okay. So going back to Mr. Weaver's comment about the sidewalk program, the current year sidewalk program following the street maintenance program, what then happens to Caraway Boulevard, Crystal Cay, Moorfield Drive, Pond Hollow Lane, and Woodside Meadow Place? Do those then get I mean, how do we catch up, I guess is where I'm going with this.
So we would be looking to program years 27, 28, and looking at our pavement condition ratings and the funding that's otherwise covered within our capital appropriations for 27, 28, 29, and allocating that based off of the pavement ratings in those areas to allocate which streets are being receiving maintenance.
I'm assuming that we're not, so sort of like the genesis for the question is I'm assuming that, you know, we've got X dollars that we anticipate, right, to allocate, you know, every single year to street maintenance, to Detroit street rebuilds, to sidewalk maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. And if we skip a year, how do we kind of?
So I guess the way you could otherwise look at it is advancing this work in 2026. We may have otherwise been in a position in 2027, being in the position of utilizing that funding allocation in 27 to do Hamilton Road, to do Granville Street and Hines. So it's basically a flip-flop between the two. But we need to get the work done on Hamilton Road in advance so that there isn't an issue with right-of-way clearance and so forth through the roles of ODOT.
That last nugget was critical there. That makes sense. We're just basically switching when we would do things. All right, thank you.
Ms. Padova.
Thank you. I just wanted to double check. It looks like we will, for the urban paving program, we'll still be doing the 50%. We will pay 50% and the owners will pay.
For residential properties.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion of these two items then? All right, consent for those then? All right, thank you very much. Final item by my count, I believe.
Last item is requesting permission to bid for White Swan Embassy. That's water line replacement, street rebuild, and we'll have sidewalk-related work associated with it.
Any discussion? Consent for that one then as well, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Director. I appreciate your time management of your presentation this evening. All right. Next up, we have items from the Department of Parks and Rec. Good evening, Director.
Good evening, thank you. 2 items for you this evening. The first item is related to a request for easement from Columbia Gas of Ohio. This is to service an emergency generator at an existing cell tower at Lower McCorkle Park. The easement will align with the existing service road that exists today as well. With that, we are requesting an ordinance to authorize the mayor to enter into an easement agreement with Columbia Gas of Ohio.
Mr. Schnitzer.
Just one sort of very granular question is, obviously that area has been identified in the past for possibly being repurposed, et cetera, et cetera. Does this particular easement in any way impair the ability to repurpose that city-owned land?
It does not. There is an existing AEP easement that is aligned within that same parcel, so it does not disqualify any use.
Thank you.
Any other discussion of this item? All right, seeing none, on for first next week and then consent on the third. All right, next item, please, Director.
Thank you. The second is a resolution of authority, and this is to apply for funding that's hosted through MORPC. This is for the Federal Transit Administration Section 5310, which is enhanced mobility of older adults and individuals with disabilities. If awarded, the funding will be used to host a pilot program to help supplement transportation for senior center members. The application does require the resolution of authority for submittal, so the request for this evening is for that.
Any discussion of this item? I'll just say how excited I am to see this coming forward this evening. This is really great, so thank you very much, and we will put this on for Mrs. McGregor. I'm sorry.
Is this for more than just transportation to and from the senior center, or is this, or how is that?
For this pilot program, it is just to and from the senior center.
So, okay, all right, that's good.
We will put this then on consent for next week. All right, thank you very much, Director. All right, next up, we have items from the Senior Director of Operations.
Good evening, folks. The administration is in the process of filing application to our state legislators in regards to the 2026-2027 state capital budget. We will be submitting our Creekside Plaza and flood mitigation project for potential funding under the capital budget. What we've been told or asked is that a resolution by this body in support of said application would bolster the application. So the administration respectfully requests resolution to accompany said application.
Thank you very much, Director. I see Ms. Padova.
Just had a question about, will this, I guess because we haven't approved the, outside of like the 6 million for the FEMA improvements, we haven't approved the rest of it. How does that play out with this?
So there's no obligation.
Okay.
This doesn't obligate the city in any way.
Okay, thank you.
How much are you requesting?
I believe it's actually a TBD at the moment. We're not requesting the whole thing. I believe we're just requesting a portion, probably up to 6 million. We will only get a fraction of that, if any.
All right, any other discussion on this item?
If I could just,
Madam Mayor.
thank you, just as a postscript to your question, Councilwoman. So I was actually at a Morphe luncheon last week, and they had Representative Gerald's from the State House there, who was specifically talking about capital budget requests and the strategy around requesting funds. And he gave a variety of different ways that people approach them. Either ask more and expect less, or just ask what you need. But to Director Schultz's point, the likelihood that we would get, I think even if we were to ask for 6 million, 1 million, I think we would be thrilled with. So I think it's a strategy. We'll work with Montrose Group is helping us with that. And it'll be really, I think, a strategical approach to what we think is going to be most appealing to get to where we hopefully can be.
I guess I would say I would lean into the flood mitigation more than the nice.
It's actually the opposite.
It's the
Generally
opposite.
speaking, the legislators like a little bit of
Downtown
glitz
revitalization.
with their awards, as opposed to, I mean, flood mitigation is very hard to render. We talked to folks on the plaza, and they say, well, talk to me about or show me where the flood mitigation happens, and it's a very difficult to show them what that's going to look like in the future and what benefit it has to them. It's like underground utilities. Everybody expects them, but nobody recognizes that they're there.
And we previously submitted this as a flood mitigation project
Correct.
2 years ago.
Yep.
Thank you. On for consent then next week, please. All right, thank you very much, Director. Last up here, we have items from council members. I have a resolution that would recognize October as National Arts and Humanities Month in Gahanna. That has been provided to you. Happy to answer any questions. I would expect a few guests for a ceremonial presentation next week. Seeing none, I would ask for consent agenda for that item. All right, thank you. Anything else for committee this evening? Seeing nothing further, we'll adjourn. Thank you, everyone.